me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Possibly. I hope that you're having the time of your life. Think twice. That's the only advice.
Hello, everybody. Hey, happy Friday. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Lots going on. There's something I needed to talk to you guys about. But before I do that, I have to say to you, thank you for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to spend a few moments with me here on SML TV. A few shout outs before I begin. I'll only be a second. South Africa is here. Somebody says we love South Africa. Thank you. Maps. Wow, today you really kept time. I don't usually do that. And I'm not proud to say that. I mean, honestly, really, I don't want you to get the wrong idea and think that I love the fact that sometimes I'm not on time. But today's different. Today I'm on time. Somebody's watching us from the USSR, the former Soviet Union. The NPF, somebody says, are truly a rare but dangerous breed. Well, you ain't lying, I tell you that. Guys, let's talk about this. There's something I need to get off my chest, and as is my custom, I love the fact that I can sit here and whenever I have a thought that I'd like to put across to you, I often say this, and please forgive my repetitiveness. I just turn on the lights, turn on my camera, boom, presto, we're in business. Let me also mention, and I think it's important to mention this, and of course they're not paying me for this. I'm just sharing my experience with you. I'm using the new MTN 5G, what do you call it, router, although I'm using the 4G tier because 5G is not really hooked up in this area. It doesn't really work that well in the City Market, Lumumba Road, Simon Lane, Simoson area. But when you click onto the 4G tier, because as you know, the MTN console or router, once you hook it up, it gives you two tiers that you can choose from. The moment I select the 4G tier, it works perfectly, and it's fantastic for live streaming. So I would strongly recommend this new router by MTN. Of course, 5G works in different areas. It just doesn't work that well here in town. But the 4G tier is fantastic. So I just want to say thank you to MTN for this. They're not paying me. I bought this router with my money. MTN didn't give me a gift. MTN have not paid me to advertise for them. I'm simply saying this for you fellow vloggers and you fellow creators. If you're looking for something that will help you with your live streaming, this is the way to go. And I'm very happy with it. Honestly, I am. Okay, let's get into this. Guys, I want to share something with you. All of you know about this gold scandal that's been going around. Well, there's an Asian man that lived in Kenya for many, many years. His name was or is Kamlesh Pattni. You should research this guy. Kamlesh Pattni is one of Africa's notorious gold dealers. This guy almost crippled Kenya's economy. He went into Kenya and he convinced the president at that time, Moi, Arap Moi, and somehow he convinced that government to give him the sole license to export gold. But he was doing it under the table whenever they would get the profits instead of the coffers, instead of Kenya's coffers getting that money, a very small percentage of that money used to go into Kenya's coffers, but the vast majority of the money would be shared between this man, Kamlesh Pattni, and the Kenyan government at that time. This guy was bad news. I mean, he almost, like I said, almost crippled the Kenyan economy. And one of the things, and there's a reason I'm bringing him up. I'm going to tie it together in a moment. I'm going to tether it in a moment, and you'll understand why I'm bringing his name up. But one of the things that this man, Kamlesh Pattni, would do whenever he would have meetings with high-profile dignitaries or high-profile dealers, gold dealers, one of the things he would always do was he would always reach for his phone, and he would always show the people he was meeting the pictures that he had taken with many different presidents. He would say, you see, this was me with Robert Mugabe. This was me with Gaddafi. This was me with M7 over there in Uganda, Museveni. This was me with the king of whatever country it was. On and on and on. This was me with the Zuma, Jacob Zuma. And he did that because he wanted to build rapport and confidence with the people he was dealing with. He wanted to demonstrate to these people that he's well connected. He's well connected. He takes pictures and selfies with heads of state. He takes pictures and selfies with high profile government officials. And yet the whole thing was a con. It was a con. Now, let me tell you, and lots of con people do this, okay? They do this all the time. I'm going to tell you a story, and I feel it's important for me to tell this story, not only because it's true, but, you know, that's just the deal, okay? A few years ago, I was over at Miles Sampa's house. And you know Miles. Miles is the former mayor of Lusaka. Miles he's one of the contenders of he wants to lead the notorious Patriotic Front, that party that's embroiled in all kinds of craziness. But Miles has put his foot forward to lead that party. And of course they're fighting him in there, you know. But there's one time he invited people to his house, and a whole bunch of people were there. So many different people were there. Given Luwinda was there. The former governor of Bank of Zambia was there. So many different PF people were there, you know. I went there because Miles had invited me, and I get along with Miles. Miles, I think, is a good friend of mine, and I love him. And while I was there, this young man approached me, and he seemed to know who I was by virtue of the fact that, you know, I'm a so-called media personality, whatever the heck that means. So this young man walks over to me, and then he's, you know, we start making small talk, and he's, you know, he introduces himself to me, and we begin to talk. And honestly, I didn't know who this guy was. You know, we talked, and he introduced himself. And one of the first things that he did, one of the very first things that he did is that he name dropped. Do you know what it means when someone name drops? It means they mention someone that's very, very important, and they mention them within their sphere. In other words, when he name dropped this big person, and I'll tell you who that is in a moment, he sort of indicated that he knew this person, this big name that he dropped. Now, when he name dropped, I was thinking, what's the connection? What's the purpose of you telling me that you know this person? And you know, I'm sitting there thinking, well, I'm not clear as to why you're bringing this name up. So finally, he brings it up and he says to me, he says, well, we're very good friends. I said, oh, really? He says, yeah. I said, I can even prove it to you. So he pulls out his phone in the same way that this man, Kamlesh Pattni, did. This guy that I met at Miles Sampa's house, he pulls out his phone and then he shows me a picture of him with former President Edgar Lungu. I said, the president and I, he says, the president and I are very close. I said, really? He says, yeah. Now, at this moment, I'm thinking, okay, now what? And the young man that was talking to me was this young man here, Chomba Kaoma. And I discovered that every time I would bump into him or I'd see him somewhere, he would always make it a point to bring up the fact that he knew the former president. Now, guys, you must understand that people that do that are not genuine people. They're con artists. When they use a big name to convince you that they are well connected and they're trying to demonstrate to you that they're somebody because they know somebody else or somebody that's really big in the government or somebody that can potentially change your view about them. And this name here came up again during the honeybee scandal. Every time I would see him, this Chomba, he was on television and he was talking about how, they had invested so much money as honeybee and how this, that, and the other, and how much money they had. And this was on national. He was on, at the time, it was Spring TV. And incidentally, Spring TV has been closed for whatever reason. But my point is this. At first glance, when you would hear Chomba Kaoma talking about honeybee, before that whole honeybee scandal blew up, he spoke about honeybee as if it was his company. He spoke about honeybee as if he was one of the main players in honeybee. He talked about honeybee as if he was the signatory to all the big accounts. But when the scandal broke out, the financial scandal of honeybee broke out, Chomba Kaoma was nowhere mentioned. Do you know what that tells you? It tells you that he was just a front. He's one of these people that go out front. They don't have any clout. It's all a mirage. It's all a smokescreen. They want to make you believe that they're one of the big boys, but when the defecation hits the fan, you discover very quickly that they are nowhere near what they claim to be. And that's when I realized who this guy was. I realized that, it's all about the smoke screen. It's all about the magic show. It's all about the facade. And let me warn you guys, be wary of anyone that walks up to you. I mean, look, we all take pictures of heads of state or with heads of states, okay? We've all done it. I mean, at any time you get an opportunity to take a picture with the president and you take it, but when you begin to use it as a tool to convince someone that you are highly connected, it only means one thing. They're a con artist and they're trying to con you. And that's the truth. It's different if someone shows you a picture that they took with the president and say, "Oh, guess who I met the other day? I met the president." And you show the picture and it ends there. But when you begin to show pictures of you jogging with the president and you taking photographs with the president, and then you tether it, you hook it with this narrative that you are well connected and that the person you're talking to needs you because they all of a sudden now recognize that, oh, you're someone important. So you can get me connected. You can get me to rub shoulders with the people in the corridors of power. Be weary of people that show you pictures of them with heads of state. They're con artists. Are you hearing that? And I'm just, hey man, we're dropping bombs today. It's the weekend. What are we going to do? Okay? Let's just drop the bombs. Let me read a couple of your comments on this segment before I move to Bowman. Somebody says, I agree with you, Pops. I do. Oh, Lorraine Wangu. That's my friend, Lorraine Wangu. Yeah. Here we go. Somebody's watching from Sulawesi. So be weary of that. Be weary of that. And always listen to your gut. Always listen to your instincts. When someone approaches you and they're talking a big game, meaning, they're talking big. I know this, the president, I know this minister, and for no reason, that's a red flag. Chances are they're dubious. Chances are they're con artists. Chances are they're up to no good. Chances are they are skullduggerers. Chances are they're not straight. It's a red flag. All right. Lastly, Bowman. So the other day, Bowman says, I will refund. Remember, Miles paid 200,000 kwacha for his nomination fees over there at the PF office. And then Bowman, he said something that is not out of character for him. He says, no, me, I can pay back Bowman. I can pay back Miles. That 200,000 kwacha. In fact, with interest. You know what Bowman is doing? He's doing the same thing he used to do when he was in government. Remember what he used to say? He would say, my wife's perfume can pay someone's salary. This boastful, braggadocious attitude. And guys, let me tell you, take it from me, even if you are rich, there is nothing more unattractive than a boastful person. Boastful. Bowman does this very well. And what's sad about Bowman is that he does it and he doesn't even know that he's doing it. That's what's sad about it. If you were to walk up to Bowman and say, you know what, you sound a bit boastful, he would look at you like a calf looking at a new gate. You know why? Because he's unaware of his boastfulness. The money that my wife spends on perfume can pay some of your salaries. In the same vein, by the same token, it is the very same spirit that he's speaking when he says, I can pay back Mao's Sampa's nomination fees, including interest. It's that boastfulness. Anyway, that boastfulness, yeah, is shitting unnecessary. Given the backdrop, against the backdrop of what Bowman is going through now, how dare he say something like that? Bowman has got a long list of charges from the Anti-Corruption Commission. You would think that a man like him would be smart enough to keep his big mouth shut by not saying things like that. Here it is, the ACC they're investigating you for so many different financial mismanagement scandals. And then you have the audacity. He has the unmitigated gall to say things like, your 200,000 is nothing. Oh, really? Against the backdrop of you being investigated, you still insist on making such braggadocious statements? I mean, when it comes to Bowman, this sort of boastfulness, it's in his blood. The guy can't help it. You know, it's like this. There's a young man. He's on social media now. He can't help himself. He constantly talks about how he's rich and this, that, and the other. Now, listen, if you've got the goods to back it up and you want to live your life in that way, that's you're fine to do that. But it is disingenuous when you don't have the goods, but you claim to have the goods. That's unattractive. And these kids on social media, they have no idea what they're doing. When they get older, they'll know. Right now, they think it's all fun and games. I warn you, there is nothing more unattractive than being boastful. Boastful. A prideful and a haughty spirit, God rejects. That's scripture. That's Bible. All right. Thought I'd share that with you. Let me read a couple of your comments here. Who is this? This is somebody's from Durban, watching from Durban, and you talk so much sense. Great listening to you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Watching from Dubai. Wow, from Dubai. Wonderful. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much. Well, I thought I'd share that with you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening.